Lesson number 6, Fractal Breakout Strategy. Fractals are part of a set of tools used by the Bill Williams trading strategy. Within MetaTrader there are actually 6 indicators that are the Bill Williams indicators. So if we go and look at Bill Williams, we've got here these 6 indicators. I'm just going to add the fractal one to the chart, and we can see the fractals have appeared. These ones here of this type on the upper side of price action are called upper fractals, and these are called lower fractals at the bottom. Now, a upper fractal is created when prices, when a group of 5 price bar or candles are formed, and the third candle, the center candle, has a higher high than the previous candles and the next 2 candles. So in this case you can clearly see that high and that high are lower than this high. That high is just marginally lower than that high, and this low is higher than that high. And conversely, if we look at the lower side, same thing occurs. So for this particular fractal, these 2 candles have got higher lows. These 2 candles here have got higher lows, but notice how this candle here has got a lower low than this candle. That doesn't matter. These 2 candles don't necessarily have to be this one being a higher low than the previous one there. All we're after is the 5 candles, the middle candle sticking out from the other 4 candles. So that's how a fractal is formed. So you can see that also fractals might share the same candles. So over here, this fractal set up here is a 5 candle combination here, and this one is a 5 candle combination this way. And so we've got a lower fractal and an upper fractal right next to each other. Okay, enough of that. Let's just remove those fractals from there. So I'm going to delete that indicator, and I'm just going to add the fractals with my... So we're going to do that with my indicator and set the fractals to be on. And what my indicator does is draws them as circles instead of the little triangles. So what we can see here is that the last high or swing high was here on this time frame, the last swing low was here, and until price action in this case may go lower and forms a 5 candle formation, we're not going to get a lower low until that occurs. But what we can do is use these swing highs and swing lows as points of support and resistance, and we'll do that by adding some lines from these points onwards. So I'm just going to do that with this indicator. So we're going to use, at the moment we turn the fractals on there, and we're going to turn these dots on beside the fractals by clicking that button. And here we go. So now we've got this being a fractal support line, and this being our most recent fractal resistance line. So what we're really interested in is that when price is forming, in this case, let's say this is a higher high than the previous high, and this is a higher low than the previous low, that's the definition for trending bullish or being an uptrend. So until we make a lower high and a lower low, the price is considered to be in an uptrend. When it does do that, if we've got a lower high here and a lower low here, we can consider that price on this time frame is in a downtrend. So we'd be very interested in if this whole thing of higher highs and higher lows gets kind of tipped on its ear. In other words, if price actually went below this point here, obviously the next fractal that occurs would be a lower low, so the next swing would be a lower low. So why not try and catch that before the actual fractal gets formed by the 5 bar pattern? So the idea is, if that broke, we'd want a heads up that, hey, this is broken, and within the next few candles this could be a lower low. Well, it will be a lower low definitely, because once price is broken through there's already 2 candles beside it that are got higher lows. So we've just got to see that, and we don't know whereabouts that next low fractal will occur, but it will occur below this point. So a good indication that trend could be changing direction. Same as in the top, we're still looking for a continuation of this trend pattern. So we've been making higher highs and higher lows. So if we broke out of this point here, we're on our way to forming another higher high, and so we're very interested in that. So a break of there would be good if we got an alert for it. So what I've done with this indicator is said, okay, let's put some arrows on here as soon as we get a break of any of these things. So let's have a look here. So down here, at this point here, this was the previous swing high, this was the previous swing low, and it finally broke one of those points over here. So we would be considering that trend is changing direction to a downtrend, because now we're going to create a lower low, and hopefully later on we'll get a lower high. But if we drew an arrow above here, that would be able to show us that we've actually had a break of what was an uptrend. Same as this point here, we drew the new, once it broke, we drew the new fractal low and then the new fractal high, and price broke the fractal high. So if we put an arrow here and got an alert, that would be an alert to say that, well, trend fired to say that it was going low, but now it's gone the other way, and so trend is now making higher highs. So let's just add those to the chart. So the indicator has actually got that ability. And the setting you want on the dashboard is the one arrows on. So we're just going to change that to true, and we want to see all the same information, and there we go. The arrows are appearing where the most recent fractal high and low, considering them as resistance there and support here, have been broken. So as soon as this arrow occurs, we're considering that we're in a downtrend because we're making lower lows now, and we won't change to a green arrow uptrend until we make higher highs. In other words, we break out of our last resistance. So as you can see here, if price broke this point, we're going to get an arrow saying downwards, because currently we're considering that trend is upwards because of the break here making a higher high, and we've already made our lower low, our higher low. As price continues on, what might happen is it might consolidate into a range, and these two become quite a narrow support and resistance band, and as soon as we break out of one of those, we want an alert. So if we build an alert based on the arrows, it would be quite useful for us. So let's look at how we can do that. So this is a setting you want. This is the global alerts value for fractals. So you'd turn that on to get an alert every time one of the arrows got drawn. I'm going to turn that back off. The next thing I want to do is say, well, what if we were on other time frames? When we change time frame, we get a different setup of all these arrows, and we've got different support lines. So what we'd really like to know is what's happening on some of the other time frames. So I've come up with this cunning idea that if we go back to M30, what we're interested in is seeing the lines here. So why not draw them as a line on the chart that stays there when we change to another time frame? So I'm going to do that right now. Bear with me. Right, that setting is the support resistance lines on for fractals, and if we have a look, what I've done is I've drawn a line through the most recent fractal high and fractal low. Now you can see we've just had a fractal breakout since I've been talking, and we're breaking out of this resistance line. Now I can turn all the other indicators off and just leave those two lines on now. Let's do that. So I've just turned the alerts to false, fractals to off, dots off, and so on, and just left the lines on. And as you can see, we're just left with the lines and the arrows. Now if I change time frame, I get to see those M30 lines on every time frame. Now the cool thing is that what about the direction? When we're looking at it on another time frame, the arrow disappears. But so what I've done is, in the direction of where we're going, we've got a thin line showing that that's the last one broken, and then we've got a thick line showing that that's where we've got to cross for the arrow to change direction. So if we go down to M15, where we're not going to see our M30 arrow, it's quite clear that this is the M30 resistance, and it's currently in the direction of the thin line. So that's quite handy. The next feature is to go and turn on the values for every time frame that is of interest. So let's just do that quickly. And you can see that I've adjusted some of these SR lines for different time frames to on. And as we have a look at the chart, we can see that they just stay remaining there. If you hover over them, you can see which time frame they're from. There's actually no need to have arrows now because we have the thin and the thick lines showing what we're doing. I hope that's interesting to you. That's my fractal breakout strategy. This is Stratman from Pipware.com.